Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast and live post-game show after this interesting Game 6 between the Spurs and the Rockets. Dave, this is a bit of a post-mortem, I suppose, because somebody just died.
Yeah, I don't know what in the hell that was that we just watched, but man, the Rockets looked terrible and the Spurs looked like world beaters. You know, I'm not going to say I told you so, but I kind of been yelling for Jonathan Simmons to get heavy minutes for about, 3 months at least?
Yeah.
And what do you know? The guy can play some basketball. I'll leave the F-bomb out, but he can play some basketball. How about
we
that?
know this, though, right? We've known this for a while, that he was sort of the poor man's Kawhi, who has a lot of ability, and the only reason why we wouldn't give him more hype is that he's a little bit older when he kind of got in there. But certainly, it is hard to believe that they could just plug him in. I mean, it's just kind of like the 49ers system. They just keep Joe Montana to Steve Young to whatever, and then they just keep doing well.
Look, I'm really frustrated right now because I've spent all year talking about how good Kawhi is and how it's not the system. Kawhi is a great player, and it's not the system. I mean, how many times? I mean, I have just said it over and over and over again. And then, damn it, we have a game like tonight, and Kawhi's not even in, and the system just takes control. LaMarcus Aldridge looks like a basketball player again. He was doing. I mean, he was the key to the game. I mean, Jonathan Simmons was great, and Patty Mills was great, but LaMarcus Aldridge was fantastic. God, Pop making me look like an idiot. This is the last time I get to question him, right? Like, I just need to let him play the long game here. I guess I wonder if he knew LaMarcus could do this, and that's why he took Kawhi out. I mean, we've talked a lot about how having Kawhi, Gasol, and Aldridge all out on the court. They all like to operate in kind of the same area. Mm-hmm. And no Kawhi means that Aldridge got to cook a little bit more in his spots, and they were feeding him the ball early and getting him going. I mean, it made a huge difference.
Yeah, but it's also that who is he going against? Like, Ryan Anderson isn't going to do anything against him down there, and they don't have any philosophy or principles to like double team and rotate out of that. So that was frustrating to watch. I mean, listen, it was nice that he can just do turnaround jumpers all day, but there was no adjustments. Did you see any by D'Antoni?
Where was that the rest of the series, though? I mean, like, it's easy for us to say, well, they didn't have anybody guarding him, but those same guys had been guarding him for the whole series, and he hadn't shown up. So, like, this was a big game for Aldridge. A lot of people kind of started to turn the page on him a little bit and just say, well, maybe he's washed. Yeah. But he showed tonight that he still got, some left in the tank. I still think the knee is bugging him. You can see it a little bit, like he wasn't getting the lift that he was maybe earlier in the season. But then he tried to, do a putback dunk and bring the house down. So, I don't know. Aldridge had a great game. He looked really good tonight.
Yeah.
Harden looked like dog poop.
He did, and flaming. And he kind of looked like dog poop in the last game too. And I part of me felt like I think the conventional wisdom would be, they're having him guard the big guys down there, and he's banging. That's going to wear him out, and that's why Pop continued to be big and try to keep in situations where he would be forced to guard the bigger guys like that against that smaller lineups that the Rockets wanted to run against. And yet, you might have a different opinion.
Well, all right. So, he did take a big shot to the head in Game 5, and I'm wondering if he doesn't have a concussion. I really am kind of thinking that he was hurt. I mean, let's see. Let me pull up the stats. He was 2 of 11 for the game. He didn't take the first shot until it was like 15 minutes into the game. Like, that's just if he's not shooting, then that completely changes their offense, and they don't have to guard him as hard, which means other guys aren't going to be as open. But to only take 11 shots in a game, series clinching game, and to go 2 of 11, 2 of 9 from 3. I mean, it's just. That's un-Harden-like. I mean, for a lot of people are going to come out of the woodwork and say, well, this is what Harden does in big games. Man, I just don't I don't necessarily believe in clutch or big game, like shrinking under pressure and things like that. But at this point, you have to start thinking maybe this is a thing for Harden. It's either that or there's an injury. And I know that he's in the game, and Houston isn't saying he's hurt. And so it's going to be similar to the Steph Curry stuff from last year in the playoffs where, well, he's out there. He can't be hurt. But people play hurt all the time, and it's not me making excuses. I mean, the Spurs obviously won this game. I don't think Harden could have really. If Harden went off, I don't think they're winning this game. I mean, the final score was 114-75.
Right.
The Spurs defense was outstanding tonight. But maybe it's closer. Maybe it's a little bit closer going into the fourth, and you might have a game.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what happened. I expect more to come on this. I think we'll get more info in the next few weeks.
Well, before we get into the adjustments they made defensively that helped on Harden, remind me though, what shot to the head? Like, what was the circumstances? I'm blanking right now in Game 5 of when it happened. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was kind of late in Game 5. I've been looking for tape, and I haven't been able to find it. But if I do, I'll throw it up on Twitter, and I'll tag you in it so that we can take a look at it. But a few people, Bill Simmons most notably, has pointed this out, that he kind of has looked glassy-eyed since then. I mean, he looked shell-shocked tonight. And I don't know if that's just because he played like shit or because, he might have a head injury or he doesn't feel 100%. But, I've never seen him just not shoot. I mean, it took him 15 minutes to get his first shot up. That's kind of crazy. Especially since their offense depends on him so much. Like, it was just weird. I refuse to believe this was like an attitude thing. I think it's got to be physical.
It definitely felt like that way because and I feel like he started out the same way in Game 5, like a little bit disjointed and not focused, not into it, and certainly not the same guy. Like, there's no question. And physically, it looks like he was moving okay, but we've seen this before. We've seen guys who are suffering from things like concussions that really hinders their play. I mean, heck, you could argue that like Roy Hibbert never recovered from the concussion he probably got way back in like 2013, and he got to play through it, and he's just never been the same. So too bad it happens. I also wonder though if it's another kind of is this like 2-point long twos, a mid-range winning over the 3-point and layup style and philosophy?
No, I don't think that this is some sort of indictment game or series over the Rockets' style of play. I think that the math is in. We know that the right way to play. I mean, let me look at the stats here. So tonight, I mean, the Spurs took 22 threes, which is down from their season average a little bit, but they didn't shoot that many to begin with, and they were 5 of 22 from 3-point range. Right. I think that the bigger thing is that they won the rebounding battle 60-37.
Yeah,
that's insane. So that's really the story here. To me, is the rebounds, which I mean, this comes back to them playing great defense. They were switching everything. They were a little bit more switchy tonight than they've been all series. They were just instantly switching those screens instead of fighting through them. And maybe this is one of the things that they're going to go to in the next series against Golden State. But they just didn't feel like they had a guy that can do what Kawhi does, where he gets around screens so easily and so quickly. Yeah. Jonathan Simmons, I thought, was fantastic when he was guarding Harden. He does a lot of stuff with his hands up, so he can't foul. Palms up. Like, it's really hard to draw fouls that way. And there was a graphic. I think Harden shot like 67 free throws or something in the OKC series, and he shot like 30 fewer free throws in this series. So obviously it was a point of emphasis for the Spurs to not put him on the line, not give him free points. And I think that that's a key for him to get going. I think that sometimes, with all these tough shots he's taking, a lot of step-back threes with a hand in the face, he's trying to draw fouls. I think that sometimes it's hard for him to find his shot early if he's not going to the line. And they really took him out of his game by keeping him off the line.
Yeah. And what we did see is an adjustment, and I'm blanking who the guy is. I saw it on Twitter. Did a nice little edit for us. Not for us, but edit
Ben
for
Falk.
On Twitter. What's that?
Ben Falk.
Ben Falk did a great one where he was showing the adjustment they were doing in the pick and roll defense, which they had been trying to hedge high. And when I did a video on how the Rockets just lit them up in Game 1, they were hedging high, and there was no way they can get to the pop like when Ariza or Anderson would pop after the screen. And then they adjusted that, and they played like ice kind of defense, or like sinking the big man down and containing, and then basically daring James Harden to shoot a long two if he wanted to, and trying to keep him there until the guard got around. And that really just stymied the whole offense, which, by the way, this was not D'Antoni offense. Whatever they decided to run tonight, there was there was no pistol action, there was no corner, there was no movement. It was It was horrible. It was
It
gross.
was weirdly similar to the end of Game 5. The last 3 minutes or so of Game 5 and overtime was the same thing. It was that clogged toilet offense, dribble the clock down. I mean, how many times tonight were they taking a shot with like 4 seconds left on the clock?
Right.
And that's very un-D'Antoni-like. There were no early screens. It was weird. There was a lot of weird stuff happening. And the Spurs were smart. They were actually daring. They were running guys off the line, the three-point line, and they were daring them to make that pass into Capella, and then they were just all crashing hard on Capella. It was a beautiful adjustment by Pop. I mean, he really up until the middle of Game 5, I felt like D'Antoni was out coaching him in this series, just because Pop wasn't really matching the adjustments. They were getting better play, but I felt like D'Antoni was, he was getting a lot out of his guys, and then D'Antoni or Popovich for the last game and a half just really outclassed D'Antoni. And the players have to go out and play. So credit to the Spurs guys for going out and really, they really lit the Rockets up in this game. It was
But,
it was a mess.
While I'm sitting there watching this, I'm starting to have these visions of, maybe this just take a three for the sake of taking a three for volume is not the way to go. Maybe after this series, I started to think that you have to still have the principles of a good shot, because what's the percentage of 3-point shots that they take? Do you think that are not really good shots? What would you say?
I don't know, but it's at least 10%. And that's a lot. If you're shooting 45 threes a game, it's at least 10% that are not good looks.
Yeah.
But it could be a quarter of them.
No, I think it's closer to 20, because the ones that are just dribble into a three when the defense is set, or you're getting a pass from the top to the wing when there's no movement and rotation, no forcing of anything to get open, and so it's they're just, and those are the shots I'm sure they're encouraged to take. They're just I am just gonna take the shot because this is our focus, and it'll be the better shot we can get than anything else. And I think that what you see with the Spurs is they're much more judicious with their shots.
All right, Athlete Daily.
And as a result, they make a very high percentage of them normally. Not tonight as much, but right. What do they shoot from three?
Yeah, they led the league in 3-point percentage this year.
Right.
Because they only shoot open looks. And that's the thing that you and I have talked about. If you get 50 open looks, you should take 50 threes. But the Rockets so often, and mostly Harden, really, he's the main guy who takes these really hard looks. That's why his 3-point percentage. But his 3-point percentage was a little muddled, because at 34%, about half of his attempts are these step backs, these coming hard off a screen and trying to draw a foul, and so they're not great threes that he's taking.
But Ariza takes some bad threes. I would even say Lou takes some bad threes, and he hits them sometimes. But there's some culprits out there that you're the guy that takes the probably the best threes, I would imagine, would be Anderson, and even he was really kind of floppy all over the place with his landings on a lot of the shots, and it was weird to get some of those go in. But I don't know.
He was 0 of 6 tonight. He actually did not get tickets to this game.
He did not. Amazingly, he did not. He must have gotten the fake tickets because they were.
But this is
sold
what
out
I'm saying.
tonight.
So they only got 77 shots up tonight. And the Spurs got up 96. It's almost 20 shots difference. How are you not going to win that way?
Right, turnovers and offensive rebounds. That's what dooms you. And guess what? That's an old school way of playing basketball, right? We're going to pound you in the boards, get second shots, and we'll play some serious defense, force turnovers. That's why I'm wondering, this whole new notion of pace and space and threes, whatever. It's what? Good old-fashioned, hard-nosed, man-to-man defense, taking good shots. That could very well be what beats you every single time. Here's a question I want to ask you, because I started to look into this in preparation for a video. How many threes do you think that an NBA, and this is in the last since 2012, 2013, when we really started to see a big uptick in 3-point shots, how many threes do you need to make more than the other team to guarantee that you'll win? What number do you think that is?
Well, all right, so we've talked about this a lot. And I feel like it's 5 or 6, but tonight the Rockets had 8 more threes made than the Spurs.
And they got destroyed. So when you look at it, because I was looking at what's the 100% win rate, based on how many threes you need to make another team. And I would have thought it'd be 6 or 7 or 8, because that's 24 more points from behind the line, or however you want to look at it. Is it maybe 8 more points versus their 2s? Whatever it is, it seems like you'd be safe. But you know what? It's not. It's 13.
Whew.
Now, it hardly ever happens. It's happened maybe 25 or 30 times in the last 3 or 4 years, whatever it is. So it doesn't even happen. And so, if you make 7 more than the other team, you're 500. 500. Wow. So it's not an elixir. And I started looking at turnovers as well. Like, what if you turn over the ball over more and get out rebounded, but make 7 more? Again, it almost is the same thing where you have to make so many more threes for that to actually be the elixir that will win you these games. And I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah, that's a crazy stat. 13 is not that is definitely not the number I would have thought it would have taken to win the game. I mean, I was thinking more like 7 or 8.
Right, and you know how many games there are in that time span. I mean, you're talking about 4 seasons, and it's every team's playing 82 games. To have that happen 30 times, it's basically a unicorn that never happens. You're never going to score 13 more threes. You're probably never going to score 10 more threes than the other team, especially as we're moving forward. So all of a sudden, I'm starting to wonder, just what kind of effect are we seeing here from 3-pointers, and whether we're doing this right.
All right. Well, again, to avoid the hot take, police coming after us, this one game should not completely alter, the landscape of the NBA. The Rockets played like crap, and the Spurs played really, really well and won the game. I don't think that. I think that this style of play that the Rockets play, I think you can win with it. Their issue tonight, they didn't make any shots. They shot 28% for the game, and their defense was atrocious. That's a bad combination. You got to have one of those. You got to either be able to make shots or play good defense. Spurs did both tonight. Yeah. Right? So, I think that I get where you're coming from, and I understand, because Pop really did kind of zag when everyone else was zigging by working the post and the mid-range and all that stuff. And that's smart, right? He's looking for the market inefficiencies. Yeah. But at the same time, I think that the overwhelming evidence would suggest that, shooting more threes, albeit they should be good looks, equals, that's a winning formula.
Yeah, and I just got a tweet shared to me from Rod over on Twitter at the screenshot of the advanced stats, and basically the points in the paint discrepancy was 62 to 18, which is insane. I don't think you're going to see that discrepancy anywhere else in a long time. So,
well, this is where they really missed Nene. Not just on the defensive end, but on the offensive end. Nene was owning that Aldridge matchup and had been fantastic in the playoffs as a whole. And with him going out, they just didn't have the option. Capella's nice in the pick and roll, but that's it. That is his game.
Right. And he was struggling a little bit there down too. He was having trouble finishing. I don't know what was going on with that. But yeah, it was a problem. It was an shit sandwich all the way around, and I don't know. But you're right. I'm sorry, but Nene, you're right, was huge, because you can argue that they would have won Game 5 had he been able to play longer. Right? He was doing so well. Yeah, that's what they needed. And by the way, if they win Game 5, which went on a trifle, one play here or there, and then the Rockets win Game 5, then we're not talking like we are right now. Probably.
Yeah, we would be talking about a Game 7. We would be saying, man, the Rockets really shit the bed tonight, and let's see what happens in the next game. Maybe, another blowout. Right. Yeah. So, again, there's a lot of people, a lot of retroactive hot takes, and people saying, hey, your MVP just went 2 of 11 or whatever. Or on the other side, oh, man, the Spurs won without your MVP. What does that say about your team? It's one game. Everybody relax. The Rockets still had a really good season. Kawai is still, to me, a top 4 player, in the league. The order kind of varies depending on the week. And it'll be fine. We finally get a Spurs-Warriors series, right? This is what we've been wanting.
Yeah, we deserve it.
Yeah, everyone be happy. Right. Because the Rockets' defense wouldn't be able to hang with the Warriors. So I'm really glad that the Spurs kind of pulled it out and won the series, because they actually have a good defense, and tonight was to me the blueprint. If you're gonna bother the Warriors, you're gonna have to be able to switch everything. You're gonna need Aldridge to do what he did tonight. You're gonna he has to take advantage of when he's got KD or he's got Draymond on him, and so I'm excited to see what we get starting Sunday. I mean, I
Yeah.
still think the Warriors are going to sweep.
And thank goodness it starts on Sunday. I was a little worried it was going to be a Saturday game because, well, Billy Joel is in town, and I'm going to have to go see that. And so that's an interesting thing. We can kind of transition this for a few minutes onto this impending matchup. So you have Danny Green, who is an elite defender, who will be able to get in there and mix it up with either Steph or Clay. And you're going to have to deal with what's going to happen. What's the backcourt going to look like then, as far as how are they going to match up?
I have no idea. I'm assuming this is assuming Kawhi's going to be healthy. I'm assuming he'll be fine. I mean, healthy, quote unquote. Recovering from an ankle sprain in 4 days is not like a real thing. So, but Kawhi will be out there, and I'm assuming he'll start on Durant. That would be my assumption. And then you've got Patty Mills and Danny Green on Clay and Steph.
Yeah.
The matchup is going to be interesting. And then where they really have the advantage is with Powell and Aldridge, because Zaza is going to have to guard one of those guys.
Right.
So they're gonna have to go at Zaza early, I think.
Yeah.
And tonight we saw a little bit of that Spurs beautiful game. The ball movement. Aldridge was getting involved. Giving a nice up fake and then wrap around pass to Kyle Anderson, and then DeJounte Murray, my guy, makes a hard cut to the basket. He misses the shot, but still, it was nice to see. I got a little nostalgic there for a minute for my favorite basketball team of all time, the 2014 Spurs.
That's right. Yeah, and because here comes all the hot takes, whether they're better without Kawhi, which is nonsense. But there is a little bit more of that beautiful game when he's not there. And I like the Patty Mills. So Patty Mills is going to cause him problems because he'll be pesky and he will force probably Steph to. Well, I guess it depends on whether they can switch it up, but he's going to run whoever is guarding him ragged, be it Clay or Steph Curry, and then Danny Green is just one of those enigmas where. I still can't figure him out. I don't think he's ever really has he found his 3-point stroke over the last whatever? I think he shot well this year. Am I crazy when I say that? He shot well, right? Ultimately.
I think he was okay.
I'm calling it up right now.
I could pull it up. Yep. For the season, he was 38%. Yeah.
So that's okay. But you would expect him to get in the 41, 42.
Sure.
Because remember, most of his shots are open, really open.
Or transition, right? And he hits a lot of shoots a lot of threes in transition.
Right.
So and those are typically wide open.
Yeah, and so he just hasn't. Maybe he has a concussion from years ago that he never recovered from. I don't know, but something has been off with him. I mean, listen, I don't like his mechanics anyway, so I'm not surprised he might go through huge stretches where he just up and down, up and down.
But it's the playoffs. It's the playoffs, and playoff Danny Green is right up there with Michael Jordan. As scary players, you don't want to see playoff Danny Green shooting threes, especially. So I think his shooting problems are kind of confidence based.
Yeah.
I think it's very much like when he gets going, he's sort of a front runner, so to speak. So when he gets going, he really starts hitting threes. And just so everyone in the comments section knows, I mean, that's obviously a joke. I just think. When playoff Danny Green gets going, he really does get going in general, right? So he's a streaky shooter, but it's very confidence-based. I don't think it's much to do with his form because it doesn't vary that much. I've never seen when he's going through cold stretches, I can't point out anything that he's doing that's wrong or that's bad. Maybe he rushes a little bit.
No, he doesn't straighten the arm, and it's the kind of thing where...
But that's even when he's making shots. That's what I'm saying. I can't. There's no difference.
I know. But how do you? I mean, to me, when I watch it happen, how do you mimic that every time? That exact same moment where you're not straightening your arm exactly the same way. That just seems to me very difficult to manage. But
he's had multiple seasons where he shot over 40%. So I'll look at those numbers and I'll be happy with them.
Right. And my point would be as we're pulling back into a macro sense of 3-point shooting. We might now need to start looking at shooting over the course of 5 seasons, not just one, where you see these things, and the more or the less the worse your form is or mechanics, then you can see he might have a 60-game stretch where it's going nicely, but then he'll have a 40-game stretch instead of 5 games and 6 games or whatever. I don't know. So I'm just thinking that, and that I'm kind of just. This is my mind's eye thinking about some stuff, but I don't know. we might have to start looking at that. I mean, the whole 3-point thing is going to have to be an interesting thing because how about this? I guess you can argue the Warriors already did it, right? They already sort of proved that the 3 and layup, mode works. But I wonder what to kind of see. I want to see more. I want to see 5, 6, 7 years of this to figure out if this is the sustainable model. That's what you want to shoot for. I mean, listen, I love it. And again, if you can create 50 good threes and you shoot 50 good threes, but there's a certain variability there that we're noticing that when it goes cold and the whole team goes cold, it's a real problem.
Well, I think the Warriors-Spurs version of this, where you are generating open looks, I think that's the progression, right? The Rockets, like we talked about, they take a lot of tough shots, and I think that you're better off with the good looks, right? Like Steph Curry's taking some shots that are ridiculous for anyone but Steph Curry, right? Right. But most guys can't get it. Like Harden is not that great of a bad shot maker. Remember how Kobe was really great at hitting tough shots? Yeah. And Harden, I don't think, has that thing, whatever that is.
He can kind of do, but when he's now taking the deep threes instead of the long twos that Kobe was. But we have a good question.
Terrible. He was terrible last year. End of shot clock situations. Like he was shooting like 32% or something last season.
Right.
And I haven't dug into the numbers for this year, but like we just said, a lot of what they did the last game and a half was anti-D'Antoni, and they were taking a lot of these possessions down toward the end of the shot clock. And this is something to me that's a little bit more worth looking into to me. Like what happened in Game 6 and later in Game 5 that caused them to go away from what worked? Is Harden hurt? Was he hurt? Or was there maybe a locker room issue? Or was it Nene? Nene was huge for them, and he was a key cog for them. They only played 7 guys in Game 5. I don't know.
By the way, like we said, they got Sam Decker in there for a few minutes. They didn't get. I don't think Montrezl Harrell played in the first half, but they got a little bit of time in there. But Adam Burns asked a pretty good question on Periscope, and we can turn to some questions now. So what do the Rockets do now? And the question here is, well, what is holding them back? They only have the 3rd best record in the West and whatever. And you could kind of want to say like maybe defense, but then you look at the roster. It's Capella and Beverly and Ariza, guys who can play good defense. Their defensive rating I don't think was great, but what do they do? Add another scorer? Like I don't know. What do you think
they could use? Do? They could use a bench. Like they're not really that deep. Right. Like I'm looking at the roster right now. Obviously their starters: Ariza, Capella, Beverly, James Harden, and then they have Gordon on here, but let's say Ryan Anderson, and then with Eric Gordon and Decker coming off the bench. Harrell is maybe you and I like Harrell, but I don't think D'Antoni loves Harrell. I think they need another 2 guys, to really round it out. Well, I guess Lou Williams, but he's an expiring contract, I believe. And so, I think they just need a bench. Like, a guy like KD would be great for them. He'll be a free agent.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's move on as we do. Are there any other questions we can grab from Periscope as we start to wrap this great show up? Let's grab something from them. What do we have here? An athletic wing. I think not a spot-up shooter. Everyone needs an athletic wing. So yeah, Jay Crowder would be really nice in the Rocks.
Jay Crowder would be nice on every team.
Yes. I would like to have a guy like that. Does watching the team perform without him so well have any effect, positive, negative, on Kawhi? We're not going to see it on his face. He won't show it, but no, I think it means nothing. All I think it means is he wants to get back on that court faster than anything.
My one thing is I hope that Pop realizes that they're better off with a ball movement offense than some of the stagnant one-on-one stuff that they've been running. And, maybe with Kawhi kind of being out, they'll go back to something like that. I'm assuming he's going to come back limited because an ankle injury, again, you don't recover in 4 days. So I wonder if we might see a little bit more ball movement, see him kind of playing more like he did during that championship run, like get a few more spot ups in the corner and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not counting on it, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Well, this will be great. This will be a really great test for him to see. Can he do it? Can he overcome adversity and grit it out? And but the problem is it's who they're going up against. If this was the first round, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But without the full possession of your powers, and you're going up against the best team we've seen probably in a long, long time. It's not a great recipe. So hopefully, like maybe he was ready to play tonight. They were up by a game. They're like, you know what? This is a long game here. Just take it out easy. We'll have game 7 at home if we need it. And that would be key. If he was good enough to play tonight, and then he gets an extra few days, Friday, Saturday, 2 more days, that might be enough.
Yeah, I mean that's the hope, right? Like we want everybody to be healthy. Like again, my things about guessing with Harden being hurt is very much just how he played. I wanted him to be healthy, right? Like that's always my hope going into these series is everybody's at their full strength. But Harden didn't look right, and I just hope Kawhi is ready to go on Sunday completely. Like I don't want the Steph Curry situation from last year. There's gonna be a lot of people if Kawhi's not ready to go, or if he's limited. Well, the Warriors got lucky.
Yeah,
well, right. The Warriors are probably gonna win this series anyway. I mean,
right.
The Spurs, there's a path there to victory, but I just don't. Yeah. I don't think it's gonna happen.
And Jake Anderson's throwing up a real softball to you. I think he's watched our shows before because he's asking, what do you think about going straight to Mills, Green, Kawhi, Simmons, and Aldridge?
That's where I would start. I would start the game there. Yeah, I would start the game there, and then that really like changes the dynamic. But the problem there is Draymond Green. Like I don't know that Jonathan Simmons can guard Draymond. I don't know. I mean, he did a great job tonight when he was on Harden, but I don't know that he can do it. I mean, Draymond is just a different beast.
Right, but Draymond isn't the kind of guy who is going to if he posts you up, he's usually a passer.
Right.
And he's going to kill you in transition off the rebounds. Maybe Simmons could do okay there. Maybe.
He's got the speed for it.
Yeah.
So, that could be interesting. I mean, look, I've been calling for that lineup all year long. And you know what? And then maybe give me a little bit of DeJounte Murray instead of Mills. And then you've got 4 guys that are all kind of the same size, super athletic and switchy. And then I get to I basically won't be able to podcast after that, though. That's the problem.
You'll be soiled.
Yeah, I'll be spent because that's like my dream come true. I mean, just put Dedmon in there instead of Aldridge, and done.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've kind of come to the end of a really great, spirited live post-game show and podcast recording.
Yeah. Should we talk real quick about the Celtics and Wizards? Just the game
really
tomorrow.
Quick. I mean, I tweeted out during that last game. I'm like, I wonder what the Cavaliers must be thinking watching this game. And someone replied with that LeBron dancing in the weight room image. And I mean, right? It doesn't. Even though they both had moments where they played well, it just doesn't feel like either of these teams are going to give them anything.
Yeah, there's a great picture floating around Twitter. It's like a drawing, cartoon of LeBron and Steph relaxing on the beach while all these other teams are beating each other up. And I think that was kind of perfect. It really encapsulated what's happening right now. LeBron is really enjoying himself in this postseason. We talked about that a little bit the other day. I'm loving this. I'm loving the relaxed LeBron. I like when I see these guys happy and LeBron looks happy. Looks like he's having fun. There's no weight on his shoulders. And, look, we're going to get 2 sweeps through to the finals, right? Like, they're going to sweep all the way through. That's my expectation. And then I think the Warriors sweep the Cavs. But this is unprecedented to have 2 teams come in undefeated in the playoffs, if it happens, right?
Right.
Like, the way they're coasting, it looks like it.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't. It's going to be tough. It's hard for me to picture the Spurs getting swept ever. So that's an interesting question. But yeah, I mean, there's no question that we are moving toward a clash, a rematch, a rubber match, whatever you want to call it. And I'm looking so forward to that. I mean, that's what we've been waiting for. And let's just hope that everyone comes in there, that they're healthy, right? And that they can get it on, and we'll see what happens. Even though I know you think it's not going to last long anyway if the Cavs and the Warriors meet. You can never bet against LeBron completely.
It's true. Like we may get that LeBron game where he goes for 40 and a triple double, and that might happen. But I just think the Warriors are just such a juggernaut. So all right, so back to the Celtics-Wizards. Who you got tomorrow?
Okay.
You think the Celtics close it out?
It's in Washington, although it didn't seem to matter for the Spurs tonight. Boy, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like this Wizards team's a bit of a front runner, right? And now that things are kind of bad, and they're going to start yelling at each other and this and that, whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, I might feel it that way. It might feel to me that like that they're going to lay down if the Celtics come out strong and tough. If Isaiah can kind of get his mind back into the swing of things now, which could very well happen, then they're going to be in trouble. So yeah, I don't know. I might kind of go against the grain and pick the road team. What do you think?
Yeah, see, I'm going to say that the Wizards win Game 6, and I think there's a good chance they win Game 7.
Wow. Okay. Well,
I think that look, we've seen 5 games, and the Wizards should have won 4 of them. The only game that they definitely should have lost was Game 5, and they got destroyed. Right. And I think that the Wizards are the better team, and I think that they can pull out the next 2 games.
Yeah, no, I actually hear you and I see you, but I just can't get behind it. There's, the Wizards haven't given me enough to really feel great about that, and that's the problem. But you're right. They certainly had Game 1, they had like Game 2, they had the blowouts Game 3, 4. So you're right. I mean, it definitely feels like they are better. Maybe the Celtics are a better team, play like a team better. You're gonna have to deal with Stevens versus Brooks, which you probably go with Stevens if you have to really choose that, right? So yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. All I know is that we all win, right? By watching these games.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Like, I mean, even these blowouts, I still enjoy them until they're basically in garbage time, right? Like watching the Celtics last night, they were playing a really beautiful brand of basketball, and it was so much more enjoyable than what they had been doing, which was just, hey, Isaiah, go get us a bucket.
Right.
So if they stick with that, I think the Wizards are going to have trouble. But so far in this series, it looks like the home team is pulling it out. So
yeah, and they're going to need John Wall to just detonate. They're going to need Beal to detonate, and then get anything from their bench. Some tall orders, but you never know how that's going to play out. So, well, Dave, another great show in the can. I can't wait to get this up, and then we can release it early tomorrow morning for all of your commutes on the Friday morning as we head into the weekend. Don't forget to check out my Manu Ginobili breakdown of the Game 5, which was really fun to be able to take his heroics in Game 5 and then mesh in his pasts and his other stuff and make some people cry. I guess I don't know.
It was fantastic, man. Like we love Manu Ginobili in this house, and we watched it on the big screen last night. Like it was beautiful. I love that video.
Awesome. Well, everyone else check it out, and don't forget, sports fans, the B-Ball Breakdown. We're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Dave?
Yes, I am.